Somehow I woke up out in Beverly, fucked up, smelling like that bourbon. And I end up alone. I'm not certain. Yeah, the girls impolite in the club every night. That's how it goes when you Hollywood perfect. Hollywood perfect.
Wagwan people, Lumini here, back here with another episode of the FWA Local to Global here on my channel. We are powering through our first year now into September, following our obviously September show and our August shows in the last episode. Decent rating for our August show. When I say decent, I mean our best rating overall that we've had yet on an Ascension, and our September show not living up to our August show, but still in the 40s, so decent ballpark for us to be in anyway. Obviously we still have the issue of our debt mounting and climbing really, so we're not making much progress in that, but like I said previously, the plan is to kind of address that more next year rather than this first year and see if we can turn it around then. I did want to have a look at our franchise players to see who the game is predicting will be our most successful stars. Charlie Sterling tops that list with Zion second, I believe. We do now have a hot prospect in June Lee, so we kind of need to try and get her some more reps if we can. See if we can bring that potential out of her. Also June Lee in the talk the talk category as well, so she's got very good charisma and microphone skills. So definitely one for the future if we can get the potential that she has in her out. So definitely something, a little bit of a side project for us. Obviously we've got Herman Christensen as well as our other young lion. He's not quite showing the same potential right now, but they are kind of our side projects to see if we can build them into anything. Laura Di Matteo wasn't on the franchise players list, but is on our ring generals list, which I found surprising because she is arguably our most successful in-ring competitor right now, but for some reason she isn't on that list, so it is what it is. We know how good she is for us anyway. So I was taking a look at the roster here. We have obviously offered Taonga a 1-month contract, so she will be leaving, but Will Cruz was irritated and we had a character idea that we'd picked up last episode, so I decided to deploy that on Will Cruz, and that did make him happy, so one less negative morale to deal with. And then obviously I think I decided to go and check out who else was upset. It's Levi Muir and Taonga at the moment. Obviously, like I just said, Taonga is leaving, so that's not a big concern. Levi Muir's is because he was left off of the August Ascension. I do have a couple plans for him coming up, so I think we should be able to swing that back round, to be fair. So it's not too much of a concern. I was looking here to see if he's worth keeping around. He doesn't really have great primary and mental stats, but his in-ring stuff is quite good, so I think he could be a decent bit part player for us, but I don't think we can overstretch or anything like that. He's still in the ballpark of being able to pull out a decent match every now and then. I was just checking our size there as well. Obviously we're currently at 2 popularity, hoping to try and get that rising up at some point. I was looking at our production as well because we are incurring charges obviously per show. You can see the top production value costs you 150 naturally, and I think it was then the music that we had so that we don't get fined also was costing us money. So kind of one of those things. We are spending about, I think it's 250 to 300 at the moment on our show production, which is fine, to be fair. It's just one of those things. There's trying to cut costs in different areas, but it's not going to be a production place, to be honest. I'm thinking next year we'll try and incorporate our tag team titles and try and get something going with them. It's obviously a bit of an awkward one because I want to cut down on the amount of talents that we're using, the amount of workers, that we're using, but also I need to bring in probably double the amount of workers based on having a tag team division. So it's something I'm going to work on and see how it goes. I was then checking the prestige of each of our belts. Our cruiserweight belt at the moment being our most prestigious. Then I think it was our tag teams, which aren't on yet. Then our women's, and then our undisputed, I think. But I'm hoping at some point we can raise the prestige of the undisputed title. But at the moment, as we know, it's kind of taking the back seat to the other two titles, who are just, their divisions are just pulling out absolute bangers. We obviously did as well offer Joe Lando another contract, because we do want to keep him around for the future, and hopefully he won't have too much of a hit when he does return from injury. Then the confirmation that Taonga has now officially left us. I was just checking to see after our performance if she had done any other work, because obviously our last performance against June Lee, she was pretty poor all in all. And then I checked, she had done I think it was an indie show she had done afterwards against Myla Grace, who was someone else we were actually looking at, and her and Myla had only pulled in a 17 and a 16, I believe it was. So yeah, that kind of put my Myla Grace plans on the back burner for now, because I think she needs way more popularity before we even think about bringing her in. And then at that point, we would find ourselves at Showtime. We were looking to see if anybody would be having the night off in this one, with me currently trying to cut costs, really. I wanted to see if there was anyone that we didn't necessarily need to put on this one. I've also realised now, and I have fixed this in the last couple of episodes that I have recorded, because I have pre-recorded a few because of things I've got going on in real life, that Leon Cage is actually a real person. I didn't realise this. Like I said before, I'm not super well versed with the British scene, or I wasn't. I've been watching a lot more stuff to kind of get myself up to date, so that I kind of have an idea in my head of targets that I like the idea of, etc. This is where I accidentally give our best referee the night off. I don't know how I managed to do that, but I was clicking through giving nights off. I gave, I think it was, Mark Billington the night off, and somehow I clicked on Scott Bell and gave him the night off too. I still, to this day, do not know how I've managed to do that, but yep, I've done it. So we don't have our best referee available in this one, but it is what it is. We are expecting 82 people in the building tonight, so it will be the generic venue that we use. And then again, I was just building up creative finishes, mostly trying to build up a decent stockpile for the 13th hour show that we've got coming up. Unfortunately, we actually pick up no good ones whatsoever. We had a Laura Di Matteo one, but I think it was extremely risky or something like that, so it wasn't one that we were ever going to use. But yeah, in just a second we will go ahead and get into the match card after we try team bonding here, and it does nothing but create new tension, so it was not worth it. But I will see you in the match card screen in just a sec. Alright, so match card wise, in the pre-show we will see June Lee take on the champ Laura Di Matteo, obviously in a non-title match. I do actually go back in a minute and add some creative finishes to a couple, maybe both or one of the other of the pre-show matches, just to try and give them a boost. We will then have Zozaya. It's not, I have Amari down, but I actually switched who it was because I decided to do a different thing with Amari. So we have Zozaya, and I think it ends up being Liu King Sharp. Yeah, it is Liu King Sharp, taking on Miles Kamen and Nick Riley in our other pre-show match. Then Amari will open up with a mystery opponent, because that was booked kayfabe-wise off on social media, that the Undisputed Champion got to pick a matchup for Amari. Then Amari will do the same for the Undisputed Champion. We then have Sapphire Reed taking on the Dark Sisterhood after her inflammatory comments towards them before and their attempted attacks prior. Blah blah blah, you remember all that stuff. We then have an angle called 1v1. Jackie Polo will then have a title match against Herman Christensen, and there'll be some post-match stuff after that. Then we'll see Daz Black take on Leon Cage before the champ has something to say, that being Kenny Williams, before the main event, which is Luca DePazzi taking on Simon Miller. Now, the reason that I'm booking that main event is because I'm testing to see, following Luca DePazzi's really bad angle that he had, how him and Jun Lee work together, and 2, what kind of in-ring performances he can give us in a main event slot. I think Simon Miller, obviously with the popularity, could give us the boost. Oh, actually, that's not the case, because I think I got scared that was going to be bad, so I decided to switch it, and then Daz Black vs Leon Cage will headline the show, with the Angle coming after that. So in a very good pre-show match, we get a 41 in the Jun Lee Laura Di Matteo match, 8 minutes 23 as well. Obviously the champ wins, she brings in a 51 to Jun Lee 17, so Jun Lee obviously nowhere near the levels of someone like Laura Di Matteo, but I thought for a pre-show match, there's not many better competitors that you can go in there to try and get good reps against than the champ herself, so that is why we booked that match out, and I think it did end up being a bit of a success, to be honest. Not a bad segment rating either for a pre-show match. That is then followed up by Big 40. I kind of regret not putting this match on the card. It kind of was just a way to book all 4 guys, which is why I didn't put it on the card and didn't really have any real reason behind it. But yeah, in hindsight, with it being a 40, I probably should have put it on the show. You can see Zozaya was leading the way there, Nick Riley not far behind him, Luking Sharp and then Miles Kamen, but all kind of in the same ballpark. Zozaya and Nick Riley getting similar ratings, Luking Sharp and Miles Kamen getting similar ratings, so kind of all around the same thing, but a very good pre-show for us, to be fair, and it kind of made me think maybe, especially with the bookends of like Luke DePazzi, Simon Miller, maybe we haven't necessarily got this card order right, but we'll wait and see. We will then move on to the main show, where we will obviously have the surprise match up first. Amari taking on a surprise opponent picked for him by the undisputed British heavyweight champion Jackie Polo. Obviously Amari's got a bit of a rivalry going on with the Echelon at the moment, having a couple big matches against Charlie Sterling and getting the better of him. He's now one step closer to the title, and it would be the powerhouse himself that we were just talking about, Levi Muir, the man picked by the undisputed champion to take on Amari. Now, there is an interesting history behind this. Obviously, Amari and Levi Muir are former tag team partners of one another, the Stunners as they went by, so there is a reason that the champion has picked Levi for this one. And actually in 2K this actually turned out to be a very good match between the two of them, so it was interesting to see what they could put on. There were some really cool spots in these matches. Levi Muir holding his own way better than he kind of does in the game. Levi Muir, you see there, went for a crossbody, gets caught midair by Amari and then dropped across the knee. I thought that was really cool. Followed up into the Tornado DDT off the springboard, planting Levi on the outside as well was Amari. Big scoop slam coming in here before Amari goes up to the top rope to follow up with some aerial offense. Don't know what happened to Levi Muir's body there. It was very weird. Don't know why that happened. Went for the blockbuster but gets caught into Levi Muir's finisher, actually, the power slam. But Levi doesn't go for the cover on this one, continuing on the offense, dropping Amari across the knee before following it up with a big whip into the ropes and then another power slam, doubling up and going for the cover. However, Amari would manage to hang about in this match still and even get some impact back in, going for a spinning back fist before getting dropped with a massive clothesline by Levi, who was starting to take control of this match. The prospective next contender for the undisputed title was starting to find himself in a bit of trouble, but would hit a gut wrench powerbomb, sit out powerbomb here to get a close to, but Levi was still alive in this match. You have to think as well, for Levi, a win against Amari, who is obviously on a bit of a good run following his win against Charlie Sterling at the moment, could do wonders for his career, maybe even find himself on his way to an undisputed title shot. Big famouser there by Omari, followed up by the standing shooting star, I think it is. Tries to go for it again, but does miss it the second time round. Levi gets back up to his feet and sends Omari out of the ring just with a bit of disrespect before following it up here with an absolutely massive torture rack on the outside. I thought he was going to go for a Dominator. I actually even forgot recording this voiceover that he wasn't going for the Dominator, so yeah. But Omari would start to find his way back in here, tried to go for the rolling blockbuster here, but gets caught in the face by a super kick from Levi. So you can see both men know each other extremely well in this matchup, and you know what's coming when Levi sends someone off into the ropes. The 2 duck unders, but another power slam at the end of it, and I thought that this was going to be a big upset. Levi Muir going forward, but no. Shoulder off the mat by Omari. You can see he's struggling to get to his feet. Levi tried to follow it in with a big clothesline, but Omari gets the boot up off the ropes. Big drop kick to the chest and face of Levi before he sends him out of the ring, looking to try and get that high flying offense rolling once again. And you can see he's looking, he knows what he wants to do, hits those ropes and flies out of the ring with a big suicide dive, sending Levi into the barricade before Omari would head up to the top. Big splash off the top for the cover, but only a 2 count. Levi still in this one. See, Omari cannot believe what he's seeing here, as Levi just keeps hanging around in this one, but Omari would look to line it up one more time and would manage to hit it. The big gut wrench power bomb down to the mat, and that would see Omari walk away as the victor in this one, surviving his surprise matchup that Jackie Polo tried to spring on him, and potentially moving one step closer to the FWA Undisputed Heavyweight Championship. So 2K did more justice for this match than TW did. TW only giving it a 35. Levi Muir only got a 27 and Omari got a 36. So yeah, 2K definitely liked this match a lot more than TW did, but it's not bad all in all. 35 isn't terrible. Actually had very good crowd rating, but the wrestling, I think Levi just pulled the wrestling rating down. It's one of those things, like I said, I think Levi could be a good bit part player for us. I think he can even pull out a decent match every now and then, but he just isn't one of those guys, for me at least, or how I feel about it, is he's just not at that level yet where he'll be able to be someone that we rely upon to kind of bring out a big match on the card that we might need it on. But regardless of all of that, it does get the show off to a good start, and the crowd does get hotter because of this match. So all in all, it kind of did what it needed to start the show. We then have the Sapphire Reed match, who is actually joined by Kira Kamira midway through this match. So Sapphire Reed does have some friends out there, and they defeat the Dark Sisterhood when Sapphire Reed submitted Raven Creed. Only a 36 for this one. Kira Kamira only getting a 20, so maybe not the right choice, but I just wanted to find someone that I could bring in the local worker section to kind of help this segment a bit more, because obviously otherwise we definitely had to give Sapphire Reed the loss. Didn't want to bury the Dark Sisterhood just yet, though there may be a change coming with them. Sapphire Reed does pull out a 43, and Casey Owens pulls out a 43 though. Raven Creed only a 30, and then Kira Kamira obviously last with only a 20, but that did help to progress the Dark Sisterhood and also get the crowd hotter. So again, not standout, but did an okay job for the card overall. I don't mind when mid-card stuff dips a little bit because it's mid-card stuff, but this one did upset me because we had an interview segment between Chantel Jordan and David Rain. Rain asked Jordan if she's finished with her business with Alice Inc. Jordan admits that Alice was the better woman in her environment, but that only makes them 1-1. Jordan continues to say that this can only end when it matters the most on FWA's biggest stage, and lays out a challenge against Bliss at 13th hour in a submission Iron Woman match. which only gets to 22 because Chantal Jordan did not do well without a script, which is actually my fault because I did mean to script this, but I ended up not selecting the option. So unfortunately a 22 for one of our angles means this card probably isn't going to be that high rated. This one also kind of worked against me because I wanted to build it that it was meant to be a stupid thing. Obviously Herman Christensen is a young lion. Jackie Polo is the FWA Undisputed British Heavyweight Champion. He's not been defending the titles regularly as maybe some would like. So I thought, oh, he can get away with like a screwy little match against a young lion and defending his belt. However, it completely worked against us. Jackie Polo gets 36, Herman Christensen gets a 3. We only get an 8 overall for the segment. So yeah, I did just completely screw up with this one, to be honest. I thought it would work, but unfortunately what happened is it ended up just completely backfiring, and it's actually going to end up probably bringing the card down overall. So it is what it is. An experiment that I tried that just unfortunately this time around didn't work out. But afterwards we do have a little angle following the post-match, which is what this was built for. Obviously Jackie Polo wins. Then we see the celebrations with Daz Black and Jackie Polo probably going slightly overboard considering Jackie Polo defended against a young lion. You see him doing his typical celebration that he's done pretty much all the way through his tainted title run, but this time Krieger would come out and answer the kind of shenanigans, let's call them, storming the ring and going after the FWA Undisputed Heavyweight Champion, obviously being Jackie Polo, and laying him out with a big move. Obviously Jackie Polo would be exhausted from his young lion match before Daz Black tries to get involved, but Krieger manages to deal with him easily, just tossing him around the ring before eventually picking him up and sending him out of the ring, because as we've ascertained, Daz Black not the most useful teammate, but out of nowhere Krieger would be dropped by a man that he's had kind of a short rivalry with now. Sorry, I just turned into a dog apparently and couldn't stop saying ours. Will Cruz would get involved, dropping Krieger and then going on to hit all 3 with splashes. The reason that I left the 2K stuff there is because basically I was just too tired to keep recording. I've got some personal life things going on at the moment, so I'm just trying to get this video out to keep some sort of consistency. But you can see this one does get a 37. You can see most segments actually got pretty decent ratings overall, bar one that only got a 31, but the others, and the last one, sorry, only got 29. But overall I think it was a good pickup that we needed, obviously from the match being a disappointment. So the angle worked out, but the match just didn't do what it was kind of made to do. Maybe I shouldn't have booked it that way, but I don't really think there was another way to do it. Maybe I could have given them a little bit longer and let Herman Christensen look like he had a fighting chance, maybe to sell the chicken shit hill thing that I'm doing with Jackie Polo. However, hindsight's 2020, isn't it? And we just didn't do it that way, so it didn't work out that way. But the 37 kind of makes up for the 8 that I got before. Combine them together, kind of gets the rating that I want. Then we see in a decent match, Simon Miller has defeated Luca Topazzi by submission after a botched interference by June Lee. Now, like I said, I was doing this to test Luca Topazzi. I did have it as the main event, but obviously I got scared and decided not to do that. Simon Miller was off his game and got a 31. Luca Topazzi got a 31, and June Lee did good work at ringside. This only got a 32 overall, and this is the point that I decided that Luca Topazzi is not a main event player for us either. So also there was a plan I had in my head of what I wanted to do with Simon Miller, so that's why I wanted to give him a win to make that work. We then move on to Leon Cage versus Daz Black, where Leon Cage picks up a win over Daz Black by pinfall with a quick roll-up. It was a high spots match, and Daz Black really let the team down, to be honest, and I'm starting to get the vibe that, again, Daz Black is someone that I maybe want him to be, and he's just not that right now, so maybe I'm overbooking him somewhat. So there is definitely a probably change of focus needed within the echelon as to who the real stars are, because I don't think at this current point in time that Daz Black is one of those stars, and that we need to maybe stop trying to book him as one. But as Leon is celebrating his first FWA win when Kenny Williams' music hits, Kenny makes his way down to ringside and gets in the Young Gun's face, raising the title between them without saying a word. It seems the champ was impressed and wants to defend his title against Cage. Only a 27 for this one. You can see the last part got an 11, so not great on that bit. I'm still working out angles fully. Like, I know the weird thing about TEW for me is that I know enough about TEW to play it to an okay level. I don't know the ins and outs, so this first year there's going to be mistakes, it maybe even into next year, where I'm just still trying to learn basically what it is that I'm actually meant to be doing. So yeah, it's kind of like half good, half bad at the moment. We do get a popularity increase. It does end up being a pretty disappointing show all in all, though, only getting a 32. So again, it is what it is. There's not much we can do about it now. You can see both of our pre-show matches were way better than any of our main card matches. So like I said, the fears that I had of us maybe, or not us, me, booking the show in a slightly wrong order were definitely founded in this one, and I definitely should have had both of those matches on the card, but you live and you learn, and I've learnt today that I booked my card the wrong way around, so it is what it is. Next time out, maybe I will get that right. We can only hope. So as for our post-show stuff, we do decide, I think, to give, was it Luke DePazzi, a bit of encouragement. I can't remember who the second one is whatsoever, so I'm going to have to watch it with you guys. Levi Muir, I do give a little bit of encouragement, because obviously he had bad morale. Don't think it ends up doing anything all in all. See, this time around we did end up losing less money, but I think that's only because we didn't use any of the European talents. We tried to use as few talents from as far afield as possible, but it's not sustainable for year one with us trying to get popularity up, I don't think. You can see we also didn't grow in size in the last size checkup that we had, so it's kind of in that weird space right now where we're so desperate to grow in size that I kind of am doing everything I can, but I also don't want to go so far out that we end up completely screwing our finances, and there's no way back. I am then here just deciding to book Leon Cage versus Kenny Williams for the title to see if that will help us draw any more names. I don't know if anyone at the moment is particularly interested in seeing this match in game, but I thought at least if we have it on the card as a pre-booked match, then we can potentially take advantage of it if there are fans of it. So it's one of those things. It's just something that I'm trying to see if it happens. If it doesn't happen, then it's fine. And then speaking of our next event, we did have to pick a date for it. I don't actually remember what day we ended up going for. I've got a weird thing with these next two shows, and I think I talk about it in next episode when we're back in live com, but I'm kind of now at the point where I'm building for 13th hour, so I don't want like huge cards for the rest, because obviously 13th hour is when we're going to try and throw most of our talent in and see if they can give us the boost that we need to finish things off basically. But we'll obviously still have decent cards, but I don't think there'll be any like huge matches or huge surprises and stuff like that. So it was a bit of a weird one for me trying to plan ahead for what we actually wanted to do. So eventually I think I decided to go late November, then we go earlier. No, we went late November so that because we're going at the end of December for 13th hour, so that's why I decided to book that there. We then have a bunch of emails the next couple of days after we advance forward. Millie McKenzie, who we have on a list, we can't sign her at the moment. I do really want to sign her, but she is currently worth 190. I am still actively trying to look for someone who's kind of in our affordable range right now that can be a viable challenger to Laura Di Matteo. besides from Chantel Jordan and Sapphire Reed, because obviously we don't want to just keep going over and over with those same couple of women challenging. We then see here that TNT made a contract offer to Pac, so I think Pac is planning on leaving AEW. Alice Inc. then I believe her contract is coming up. I was going back and forth on this one as to whether I wanted to renew this or not, because though obviously we like Alice Inc., we do have a match for her planned for 13th hour. I didn't know beyond that whether we could just afford to keep bringing her in. Basically, she's only 40 per show, but she is 100 on travel, so we offer her a short contract just to get on the other side of 13th hour, and then we will assess her contract in the new year. Casey Owens is currently on 90th show, but she is based in Ireland, so that would take her up to I think about 120, 130 with her travel. She is incredibly good for us in terms of she's matching like Sapphire Reed most matches that because that's who she's been in with most of the time. But she is currently 36. She's not really growing anymore, and we don't really have like a main event program for her at the moment, so I don't immediately renew that one. I don't immediately release her. I was just kind of going to leave it in the background and see what happened down the line, basically. We then do see that Will Cruz has walked out on Progress, so he will not be working there anymore. And then a couple injuries of guys that we have on the short list. I then go through, and I think I'm asking people to get in better shape and also asking people whether they want to move closer. I don't think we actually end up getting any done. I'm not really sure why, but I did speed it up, just not significantly. I don't know if anyone does actually end up saying yes. Oh, sorry, yeah, June Lee does say yes, and Mark Billington says yes. However, Mark Billington might not actually have an FWA future, but it was nice of him to say yes to getting in better shape, and maybe at some point down the line that may aid him in his own performances and career. So, I mean, I guess he's could be helping us, we could be helping him, but yeah, it's not something that we're really caring that much about. I then decided that for Young Lions, I think it's smarter to get them managing people and get them around people that kind of have experience or popularity and stuff like that, so that kind of can rub off on them and they can kind of get a boost from it themselves. So we're looking through here to see who Herman Christensen could potentially manage. I was originally going to go for Simon Miller, I think, but something stopped me from that. I can't remember what it was, but I did end up. I think it was because he didn't have as much experience in the business as I thought he did. So I do end up putting Herman Christensen with Luking Sharp for the moment. But obviously I do it the wrong way around because I'm an idiot. So yeah, I do put Herman Christensen with Luking Sharp. So hopefully him managing and being around Luking Sharp, they can kind of help boost each other in a way. I'm not really sure what Herman Christensen brings to the table, if I'm honest, but I know what Luking Sharp can bring to the table. So really the hopes are mostly that Luking Sharp gives a good boost to Herman rather than the other way around. We then see here that Progress are in a financial warning right now, so they are actually on the verge of bankruptcy because they are over 200 grand worth of debt at the moment. So I was kind of looking to see who they do have that only work there, but I think from what I saw, most of their talent either work for TNT and Rev Pro as well, so there's not like really anyone that we're going to pick up. We did obviously renew Alice Inc.'s contract there for the 3 months, like I said, to get her through the other side of 13th hour before we decide what to do with her. I was then talking to Casey Owens to see if she wanted to move closer. She decided not. We have her on 60 per show at the moment. She wants to go up to 90. And for me, it just isn't a feasible thing for someone that we don't have in the main event. So I tried to bring her contract down on a short contract, but she wouldn't go anywhere below 90. Can't remember if we ended up doing this or not. I did try a couple of different things. Obviously she is actually performing pretty well, but it's just it's a weird one, because I think we could probably make her into a decent draw in our home area, but in the current form that we're in, we just can't be affording to bleed hundreds on someone that isn't probably a main event talent at the moment. So we eventually, I think, do just decide to leave these contract negotiations. I can't remember if we offer her 1 month for the 90 that she wants, or if I just completely bin off the negotiations all in all. But this is basically the decision that we're going to have to make with a lot of our other roster members, whether they are or whether I have a big story for them going forward in the new year or not. It's going to be a bit of a tough time, to be honest. And there you can see we did decide to not re-sign Casey Owens, because she wouldn't bring it down. She wouldn't even take a bonus to change it around. Just also having a little flick through our stories. Most of these will culminate at 13th hour, maybe not all of them, but the Dark Sisterhood storyline is probably going to have to come to an end, considering one of the sisters from the Dark Sisterhood is leaving. It's also kind of intertwined with the stuff that I'm doing with Read All About It and Sapphire Reed, so as a standalone kind of storyline, it's not that integral. It's just kind of nice to have 4 hot storylines going on, even though one of them is just a nothing storyline. But yeah, so the mission for the last show of this episode is still just to try and find that growth, but obviously within still keeping our money in check. Casey Owens, you can then see, is confirmed to be leaving. We then have a bunch of other emails that aren't important. Our merch is up to 75%, so I think that should be at the level we need it to be for 13th hour. We should be at the next level, which hopefully means we should get a decent bit of money coming in from that one. But we'll have to wait and see if it does actually complete in that time, because I'm not 100% sure. I was then checking morale once again. At the moment we are at average. We would be higher, but people are concerned about the financial state of the company at the moment, which, to be fair, is understandable. I then see Golden Boy Santos is available to offer a contract to. He is only 50 per show at the moment and lives in southern England, so wouldn't be any travel on top of him as well. So I thought our heavyweight division does need more bodies anyway, so he could be an interesting one. He's got very good technical and brawling. Psychology's not bad either. Decent reputation. Star quality's up there. A lot of his physical stuff is pretty decent as well, so all in all, not too bad. You can see Progress have got another financial warning as well, so they probably are going to be gone from the game soon, because it's looking like Progress are struggling to keep up with things, as are we, to be fair, but we're not hundreds of thousands in debt as of yet. Could happen down the line, because we're not exactly in a healthy position, but we're not in that bad of a position. And then we do have our last show of the episode, and our last show before we get to our season finale. Golden Boy I wasn't going to be using in this one, so I do decide to give him the night off. I think I also give the night off to one other person, or maybe I don't. Miles Kamen and Mark Billington both get the night off as well, I'm pretty sure. Luke DePazzi as well. We do give... Oh wait, no, I don't give Luke DePazzi the night off. I thought I was giving Luke DePazzi the night off. I don't know what I even did in these recordings, and to be honest, I could have been doing anything at this point. But yeah, we do give a couple of nights off anyway, so I'll probably just see you in the next section, because this has taken way too long. So next section, we are expecting 45 fans in the building for this one. Of course, we're still going to be using generic, that's not going to change. However, we are going to incur a penalty for this one, because our ring has accidentally been sent to the wrong place. Though we have found a replacement and the event can go ahead, it's not great quality. So on a show that wasn't going to be the biggest of shows anyway, there's now even less reason for it to be a big show. So yeah, we can just basically now half-ass our way through the show, but I do still want it to be decent enough that we could get growth off of it, but it's going to naturally take a hit now anyway, so it is what it is. We do pick up 2 more creative ideas, but then there is a heated argument between David Rain and Herman Christensen, which is not what I want to be seeing, because that makes for a dangerous dynamic in our booking team. Sapphire Reed and Herman Christensen are also now dating, so Herman's got a lot going on here. I did decide we were going to save the Inspire here for 13th hour. I didn't want to burn it just on this show at the moment, so I do just skip the other stuff before we go into the match. And in the pre-show we do have a match announced. Then we have a angle called Old Bonds. The opener of this show will be Chantel Jordan versus Raven Creed. Another angle will then also be Alice Inc. and Disputed, which we'll see what those are. Luke King Sharp will take on Nick Riley before we see a big match. Will Cruz, Luca Tapazzi, Charlie Sterling taking on Simon Miller, Amari and Krieger. We then have another angle called Cracks before the main event will be Leon Cage versus Kenny Williams. And after that there will be something with Zosiah. Is a very angle heavy show from us, which was a bit of a problem, to be honest, because it was kind of hard to get this many angles on your show without just automatically taking hits. But like I said, it is a building show. This is literally the show we're using to build to the next show, which is 13th hour. So yeah, it was kind of one of those. We then start off the pre-show with David Rain announcing that the match for the FWA Women's Championship will be between Laura Di Matteo and Sapphire Reed at 13th hour. Does get a 28, so not a special start particularly. We then have a backstage segment between Levi, Muir and Amari. Amari is confronted by his former tag team partner. Muir lets Amari know how he enjoyed being in the ring with him, but if he wins the undisputed title, he'll stop at nothing to take it from him. So still heat there, but acknowledging their friendship. We then see Chantel Jordan defeat Raven Creed in 30 minutes 17, getting a 31 overall. Chantel Jordan actually pulling in a 40, Raven Creed pulling in a 33. Apparently it dragged in the middle, but obviously because of the poor ring it's going to get marked down anyway, so it doesn't really matter. We then have an angle where Alice Inc. accepts Jordan's challenge and the match is set for 13th hour. Gets a 32 overall, so it's not a bad segment. Again, I did leave accidentally Chantel Jordan to improvise. We then have 2/3 of the echelon in the ring, as it seems they want to address their partner. Before they get to say a word, they're interrupted by the prospective challengers for the FWA Undisputed title. All four men have valid reasons as to why they deserve rematches for the belt, and it seems like the perfect opportunity for the owner to put some pressure on the champ, and that's exactly what he does as he makes a 5-way at 13th hour. So it will be Jackie Polo taking on Amari Krieger, Will Cruz and Simon Miller. Obviously Jackie Polo has defeated all of these men, I'm pretty sure, but defeated them by nefarious tactics, so it's legitimate enough that you could probably get away with it. We then do pull in an absolutely huge at 46 as Nick Riley takes on Luke King Sharp following that angle. Luke King Sharp pulling in a 40 and Nick Riley pulling in a 46. Do have some highlights for you guys for this one though, because it was such a good match. I did decide, let's see what 2K makes of it, so put both of these guys in a match together, and it actually was a good match. Luke King Sharp was actually pretty dominant for most of it. It was weird because it was kind of a mix of high flying, but also felt like a heavyweight versus a high flyer. So you see Luke King Sharp absolutely flying all over the place, whereas it looks as though Nick Riley goes for a more power tactic at the beginning of this one. Luke King Sharp catching the leg and sweeping the other one out there before trying to fire off some more offense, but does get countered by Riley, who drop kicks him to the outside of the ring with a very strong drop kick. Riley then waits in the corner, baiting his opponent in, hitting a big think that's a wheel kick to the top of the head. Looked like he'd actually knocked Liu King Sharp out. However, Liu King Sharp does manage to kick out. Riley heads to the top and delivers a big headbutt to the chest of Liu King Sharp and is looking to finish this one off early, trying to hook up his finisher, but would be countered. Liu King Sharp delivering the jawbreaker, but not enough to stop Riley from sending him out of the ring and then hitting the big suicide dive. But that is where things would swing into the favour of Liu King Sharp, hitting a big move on the outside and following it up with more high-flying offense, going for the stun dog millionaire after the go-around, but Nick Riley will recover, hitting a snap suplex. At this point, the referee, I think, was at like 8 or 9. Both men managed to slide in the ring. Running head scissors from Nick Riley again puts him in favour, but it would be swung back and forth between the two of them. Big dive to the outside, and it looked as though Liu King Sharp was about to nick the win in this match. Obviously, we know Nick Riley won, but it looked like he was about to lose it there. Liu King Sharp looking for a big top rope moonsault, springboard moonsault, but unfortunately he does miss, and that would allow Nick Riley to grab the arm and hook up the double underhook pile driver, dropping Liu King Sharp on the top of his head and walking away with the victory in this match. Very good match, both in TW and WWE. So yeah, nice to see we've got some decent little, I would say, cruiserweight undercard matches, and we're trying to build competition for whoever does walk out of the main events, the champion. We then move on to what is basically the challengers tag team match. Will Cruz, Luca Topazzi and Charlie Sterling of the Echelon on one side, Simon Miller and Marion Krieger. So faces versus heels, very basic. 41 for this one. You can see Charlie Sterling led the way with a 41. Luca Topazzi 33, Will Cruz 36, Krieger 40, Amari 34, and Simon Miller 37. It would be Simon Miller who would get the victory once again over Luca Topazzi. Now the reason for that is because I thought that kind of put a nice little bow on their mini rivalry that they had going on. Obviously we're moving away from Luca Topazzi potentially being a challenger for the FWA Undisputed Heavyweight Championship following his disappointing 2 performances in his promo and then his match against Simon Miller last week. But Simon Miller is still up there when he is performing, so he will be the one who kind of takes the role that we were going to have for Simon Miller. But we would have another angle that would see Charlie Sterling making his way through the back after another disappointing loss on his record. His Echelon teammates tried to call out of him to get him to stop, but Sterling gets into a car and leaves the building. Now the reason you're seeing Nick Riley up there is because there was a slight little flash when Sterling gets into the car that the man he gets into the car with is Nick Riley. Now obviously the two of them have a history together, so it's something interesting that we're keeping in the books. And finally we have the main event, which doesn't end up being as good as I was hoping it was going to be, but Kenny Williams does defeat Leon Cage in 15 minutes 26 by the swinging DDT. It was meant to steal the show, unfortunately it didn't do that. I think that may be down to the ring, to be honest, and unfortunately Leon Cage just also sustained chronic upper back pain from this match. He gets a 36, Kenny Williams gets a 44, but you can see the wrestling rating, as I'm pointing out there, does get a 40, but the crowd only gave it an 18 with the segment getting a 35 overall. Then I think the problem that happened there is the ring just had an effect on what we were doing. So they do get marked down. It's unfortunate because I was hoping that that was going to be kind of a star-making performance for Leon Cage. We've seen him have some decent ones, but nothing really huge as of yet. And then the final angle to finish the show off, Josiah comes out to the ring after Kenny Williams successfully defends against Leon and makes it very clear he will be the next challenger, and that will take place at 13th hour. We do just have a little look at that in 2K24. It's quite funny though, because I did forget obviously that Josiah, though a cruiserweight, is 6'3" and is made to that in the game, where I think Kenny Williams may be 5'10", 5'11", maybe even smaller. So It literally does look like Andre the Giant versus Rey Mysterio when he holds the title up, but an interesting dynamic, I guess, at least. So that will be a big match for us at the pay-per-view. Well, it's not a pay-per-view, but at the season finale, let's call it that instead. So I'm hoping, my hopes are that is the match that absolutely obliterates it and steals the show. Now I do have plans to go pretty hard on the 13th hour show, so I probably will end up funneling a lot of money into it, so hopefully it gets a decent rating, because if that doesn't happen, we may find ourselves in trouble. We do only end up getting a 32 for this one. Again, I think a lot of that has to be put down to the ring issues that we had, but there are there's some things in there that maybe could have been switched around, is what I will say. But that is the end of that show. We will give some encouragement to Leon Cage, because obviously he did pick up an injury in his match, probably due to the poor ring again. And they do also decide to praise Will Cruz, because he was starting to get a little bit upset about not being used on 1 or 2 shows. Doesn't actually end up doing anything anyway, but Leon Cage is now suffering from chronic upper back pain, which isn't great. It does last for 75 days. He can work through it, but yeah, it will kind of always be there. You can see here, after booking a couple more of the European talents that we do have on the books, our prices have gone up again. Our expenditure has gone up again, should I say. So it definitely is a correlation between the two, which is, I know, really obvious thing for me to say, but yeah, it's just one of those things. We probably will just stomach it until next year. Unfortunately, we don't make it up to 3. We are still in the 2 bracket for popularity. I may have to try and do something like maybe running 1 more show, or running 2 shows a month or something like that. But yeah, that's an argument for future me in the new year. But as you can see, that's basically going to be it for this one. Our last ascensions. Both of those ascensions do kind of fall short, unfortunately, which sucks. I was booking an ascension here, and then I realised, oh wait, I don't actually need to book an ascension. I need to move it to January. No, February, sorry, because we'll have 13th hour, the New Dawn at the beginning of the year. So that is going to be the end of this episode. Unfortunately, it's a little bit of a disappointing one. I know that. It's not the most exciting. The shows didn't get good ratings. We had problems with pre-production. It can happen. But yeah, please like, subscribe, turn on the notification bell to get notified about when the next episode is available to you. And I hope to see you in it. Peace.